Thanks for being here. Let's start, Otis, by talking about the primary and the results. We've been saying to folks that even more than county mayor or any of the other countywide races, the DA's race is the one that we think is the most interesting, not only in this primary that we just had, but coming up in August. Let's first show the folks the results from the primary, and you can see that Steve Mulroy really had no problem taking that away. Janika White coming in second in that race. So now it's Mulroy versus Weirich, as we know. And how do you assess that race moving forward? We had talked about off camera a little bit that we see Mulroy and Harris almost being running mates here as the campaign moves forward.
That's exactly how I describe it, Richard. They are running mates. They shared an election night watch party together. Lee Harris endorsed Mulroy in this primary, which I think went a long way in helping him to get a pretty decisive victory. I think a lot of Democrats feel that he may be the best chance Democrats have to unseat Amy Weirich. Everybody is going in on this race, Richard, the Democrats and the Republicans. I was told early on that the Republicans probably are not going to put much emphasis on any of these other races that will be on the August ballot, but they really want to hang on to the district attorney's office, because that's the only office in state and county government that has a Republican in that office. So this is going to be a hotly contested race. There will probably be some mudslinging on both sides, but this will be definitely one to watch in August and throughout the summer.
Yeah, and Brad, I don't want to minimize the importance of the DA's office. The DA makes a lot of very important decisions, and what a lot of folks don't know is this is an 8-year term. It is that whoever wins is in office for a very long time. We had the Democratic National Committee folks from the Nashville office stop by the station earlier this week, and they made no bones about it that that is the race they're going to be focusing on, and they even promised that there'll be some national figures brought into Shelby County to draw attention to the Mulroy versus Weirich contest.
Yeah, Richard, I mean, certainly, we're talking about an August general election, so it wouldn't compete with, the November midterm elections on the federal level and with some other congressional races. And yeah, I mean, this is essentially 2 mayoral terms in one, an 8-year term. And you think about how many things deal with the criminal justice system with this sentencing, differences of opinion of how to sentence people, what to kind of push away in terms of tickets, misdemeanors. How do you go about prosecuting? How do you set up your prosecutorial team? There's a lot involved at 201 Poplar with the district attorney, a lot of control, and a lot of blue seats in Shelby County and in Memphis. This is really that one sort of lone few red held seats. So this is certainly one the Democrats are going to want to try to peel away. But Amy Weirich has been the incumbent for quite a while, so she has the advantage of incumbency as well.
It always is a challenge to one unseating an incumbent, you know that. As the political consultant in the bunch here, what do you think is necessary for Steve Mulroy to have a chance at unseating Amy in this race?
First, he's got to pay attention to the 6% of citizens who did not vote for him, and he's a Democrat. That was a majority. When you add the total from the 2 people who ran against him. So he's got to convince them to come over to his way of thinking. But I think it's going to be harder for Amy, because we are all in a season of trying to define what kind of justice system we want. Do we want one that is labeled the worst DA in the country, or do we want one that is no nonsense, has good prosecution, but also protects the rights and constitutional rights of citizens? And that's going to be the question. And the fact that Amy is going to be challenged on the diversity in her, with her own staff, to have only 13% of her attorneys are African-American in a city that is majority African-American. It does not speak for someone who has been in that seat a long time in a mostly Black community.
Let me push back on that a little bit, because I'm hearing that there's polling that shows that a surprising number of African Americans really like Amy's tough on crime stance. And we're talking about a lot of folks who are living in neighborhoods where they've got bars on their windows, bars on their doors, and live in genuine fear of crime. on a day-to-day, sometimes hour-to-hour basis, and that is where some of her strongest support lies. They're not inclined to support a so-called, what we can expect to hear a lot of, a woke Democrat like Steve Mulroy on this type of thing, because of they're living in fear of crime on a daily basis.
Well, her tough stance on crime has not lowered crime in the last 10 years. So, in fact, it's just been just the opposite. We have escalated every year, and she has been there. So she has to be accountable for that, too.
And that's the argument, isn't it, Otis? Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. Sorry to interrupt. I just think, kind of to following up with what you think, I think a key part of this race is I look back at the 2019 mayoral race I covered a lot. Mayor Jim Strickland really had a lot of crossover votes, so-called East Memphis Republicans. He had a lot of those kind of votes down the Walnut Grove, Poplar corridor. So it will be interesting to see if Amy Weirich can pick up quote-unquote Strickland Democrat voters to go along with the Republican camp to see if that will get her over the top. Obviously, turnout will really matter in a lot of these sections of the city.
Strickland running tough on crime, and he got a lot of the black vote when he ran for mayor, but to Brad's point, and that is the argument you're going to expect to hear from Democrats is, yeah, maybe she's tough on crime, but what does she have to show for it?
Right, and I think Tajuan makes a good point when she talks about that. That is what the Democrats are going to be saying. Steve Mulroy is going to have an army of people out there trying to help him win this, because they desperately want this seat. But the Republicans are going to have a lot of people out there doing it too. That's why the Republicans kept all of their campaign finances pretty close for this primary. They didn't have much of a race because they are concentrating on this seat. It's going to be Amy Weirich saying that Steve Mulroy is weak on crime, tough on crime, and she's going to try to explain as best she can any of the past things in her prosecutorial background that Mulroy will bring up. And it's going to get a little dirty, I believe. There may be some name calling here. There's going to be some character issues that will come up here. But that all makes it for a really good campaign to cover if you're a journalist. So I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll see how things turn out in early August.
Real quick, do you see her getting pressured to take a stand on some? The Davidson County DA has taken a stand on some things. Do you see Amy Weirich being forced to take a stand on some similar issues?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I think she's probably going to come out and she will have to say something. Somebody's going to ask her. If the state legislature down the road decides to criminalize abortion to the point where they want to lock up the women involved in this, she's going to have to explain that. She's going to have to talk about this, the law that we talked about early on in the show with homeless people camping out. She's going to have to talk about whether that's a priority for her. I think she'll probably say it is not. So yes, she's going to talk about this. One thing she also did and I think left a little less of a complaint against her when she dropped those charges against Pamela Moses for trying to register to vote. If she had not dropped those charges, that was going to be a big political issue that Mulroy and the Democrats were going to bring up.
And she snuffed that out by deciding.
And certainly the Mulroy campaign's already made that an issue, the abortion issue. That was already in emails this week right after the draft leak. So that's certainly an issue. And to follow up with Otis's point, I mean, Amy Weirich has a lot of strong supporters, but as a reporter covering this community and the criminal justice system, there's also a lot of defense attorneys that have quite a difference of opinion. It'll depend on which side gets out the most, that turns that passion into actual votes in August.
Yeah, money's going to be a factor in this race, isn't it, Tajuan? I mean, it's a factor in every race, but I see it being more of a factor than typical because...
this is going to be a big race. Yeah. This race will define who Memphis and Shelby County is as it relates to criminal justice. And we all want someone who is tough on crime, but we also want someone to protect the constitutional rights of citizens.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We're discussing this one in the weeks to come, I have a feeling.
No question about it.
When we come back, we'll talk about the Shelby County mayor's race right after this.